Do you like to be scared? Do you enjoy the thrill of a ghostly chill? From Darlington County all the way to the coast of South Carolina, there's an abundance of haunted history. Pawleys Island is no exception. Follow along as Drew and Michelle meet with author and storyteller Elizabeth Huntsinger, and she tells the tales and legends of Alice Flagg and the legendary Gray Man. Do you know the legend of the hurricane ghost called the Gray Man? Have you ever wondered who the Gray Man was? Some believe the Gray Man to be Plowden Charles Jenner Weston, an early resident of Pawleys Island. Plowden Charles Jenner Weston went to England to be educated, but returned to his beloved Pawleys Island, where he and his lovely English wife, Emily Esdale Weston, built their home. He lived there until almost the end of the Civil War and died of tuberculosis in 1864. After his death, people began to see the Gray Man before every major hurricane. Plowden Charles Jenner Weston is buried at All Saints Waccamaw Episcopal Church in Pawleys Island, where he had been buried years before. Some people believe the Gray Man is the spirit of Plowden Weston because he loved Pawleys Island and was one of its earliest inhabitants. He always did whatever he could to help his friends and neighbors. Perhaps he is still watching out for them, the people of Pawleys Island, and coming to their aid with warnings about the severe storms and hurricanes to come.
Good morning, Facebook friends and library friends, or good evening if you're watching this in the evening. We are here down on Pawleys Island, and we're at the All Saints Cemetery, and we're going to be doing, it's me and Michelle, are going to be interviewing and talking to this amazing storyteller from down here. We've already talked to her a little bit, and she's just awesome. Her name is Elizabeth Huntsinger. She is the author of More Ghosts of Georgetown, Georgetown Mysteries and Legends, and The Ghosts of Georgetown. And if we don't have these books in our local library right now, or any local library, don't worry, because we are going to be ordering these books and we'll have them for you guys to read, okay? And so look for these books in your local library, and if you love them so much as I'm sure you will, you can order them on her website. And without further ado, this is Miss Elizabeth Huntsinger.
Hello, Drew. Thank you for having me here. We are in, as Drew mentioned, in All Saints Waccamaw Episcopal Churchyard, where Plowden Weston worshipped at the church here and where he was laid to rest during the last days of the Civil War. Prior to that war, he had been a rice planter here in Georgetown, here at Pawleys Island. He had a plantation that ran from the river to the ocean, Hagley Plantation. The oceanmost part of his property was where he had Renty Tucker, a master carpenter, build an oceanfront home for him, which they called Weston Zoyland. It was the tallest building on the island, and it's still there. Plowden Weston loved this home very, very much. It was his favorite place to be. When the Civil War started and he became a captain, he had many men from his company come there when they were camped nearby for 9-course dinners. He loved Pawleys Island very, very much. And while he was doing his work as a captain, he contracted tuberculosis. And some of the powers that be worried that he would die in the field, and they did some behind-the-scenes work to make him make lieutenant governor so that he might perhaps live a little longer, and he did. But he still died in the office of lieutenant governor before the Civil War ended. By this time, he had evacuated with most of the people that lived on Hagley to Conway, South Carolina. They called it Conway Borough then. This is where he died from tuberculosis. Everyone that worked for him, 400 people, all came to his bedside to tell him goodbye. And the two that he loved the most, loved him most, floated his body per his living request before he died in a canoe down the Waccamaw River from Conway all the way down to the Waccamaw River landing here of the churchyard, and he was buried here.
Oh, that is awesome.
Indeed. Pawleys Island was the place he loved the most, and the people of the island were those that he loved the most. When the war had begun and he had organized a company, he had them outfitted with Enfield rifles from England and uniforms of his own. He bought the uniforms for them. Most others had to make their own uniforms. When he passed away, Cloud and Weston continued to watch over the island. As a matter of fact, he is now the Gray Man who watches over Pawleys Island. He's seen before every major hurricane on the great coat and slouch hat like he would have worn during the war, and carrying a kerosene lantern. Not a candle lantern, mind you. The kerosene lantern came into being used during the Civil War. This is what Cloud and Weston is unusually seen. Now, there have been documented accounts of Hurricane Hazel, Hurricane Hugo, and any other major hurricane to strike the island. You see him, the Gray Man. When interviewed afterward, the people that see him have usually said, if we had known we were going to see him, we would have probably paid closer attention, but we saw a figure on the beach, and it disappeared, not behind anything, but into the thin air. And then, the story goes, and this is legendary history, that anyone who sees him leaves the island, and they're not there when the hurricane strikes. And then when they return to the island, in the aftermath of all the devastation, their home is standing without any damage, none, not a shutter turned, while homes on both sides may be gone, swept away.
Wow.
And that is the story.
So heed his warning.
Heed his warning.
Heed his warning. If you see the Gray Man on Pawleys Island, right, and he's trying to tell you to leave, it's best that you just go ahead and pack your stuff up and go. Look, you can get your reservations back later.
Now, deeper in this cemetery is the grave of another Georgetown ghost. Her name is Alice Flagg.
Ooh. Stay tuned as we hear all about Alice Flagg.
Alice Flagg was born into an upper-class family along the coast of South Carolina in Pawleys Island in the early 19th century. Her story is an age-old tale of heartbreak. She was in love with a young man who was in a social class unsuitable for her to marry into. Her disapproving brother, a doctor, demanded she end the romance at once, never to see the young man again. Alice defied her brother, and she and the young man continued to see each other, eventually becoming betrothed. Alice hid the engagement by wearing a ring on the ribbon around her neck, but her secret love was discovered and she sent to boarding school in Charleston to separate her from her intended. Alice became very ill, likely with malaria, and was rushed back home with her family, who worriedly tended to her. As she lay in her sickbed, her brother discovered the ring around her neck. He ripped it off and threw it away. A distraught Alice grew delirious with sickness, compounded by her sorrow that the ring and her beloved were taken from her. She spent her last days begging everyone she saw to find the ring for her, but her wish was never granted. Alice became hopelessly worn from her sickness and soon died. Whether they believe in the ghost stories or simply feel sorry for poor Alice, visitors often bring flowers and small tokens in remembrance of her grave. The believers bring the gifts in hopes of contacting Alice and calming her heart-sick soul. Others just come to see the painfully simple gravestone that marks only just her name, Alice. Superstition says that if you are right bottom of the gravestone and walk around 7 times counterclockwise, and then 7 more times stopping at the letter A on her marker, you can place a token in recognition upon the resting place, make a wish, and it will be granted. Spirit spotters insist that Alice's specter can be seen from the front door of the Flagg home, also known as the Hermitage, as she moves silently up the staircase to her bedroom. Others claim she can be seen at the graveyard at All Saints Church, but wherever it is that she appears, she seems to always be searching for the same thing, the ring that was taken from around her neck.
All right, friends, we're back on the other side of the cemetery with Miss Elizabeth, and she's going to tell us the legend of Alice Flagg.
Alice, in the 1850s, was a 15-year-old girl living on the plantation owned by her brother, Allard, and her mother. Her father had passed away. They were of the rice planting genre, and Alice, she was destined to marry the son of a rice plantation owner like everyone else in their group. But Alice fell in love with a lumberman. Now, their plantation was called Wachasaw near Merle's Inlet, and it was a river-to-ocean plantation with the inlet part, the part closest to the ocean, where they built their summer home called the Hermitage, and their year-round plantation home was on the Waccamaw River. It is believed that Alice, according to local lore, met this young man on the Waccamaw River, which was the way they would have traveled more often than using the dusty, hot King's Highway. Well, dear Alice was called on by this young fellow, and very soon her brother told her that this was inappropriate for him to be calling on her. Now, her brother was very serious about the progeny of the rice planters marrying into the rice planting genre. As a matter of fact, Brother Allard, who was buried next to Alice, he married Penelope Ward, who was buried next to him, who was the daughter of the wealthiest rice planter on the entire Waccamaw Neck, Joshua Ward, who's buried over there. He was not going to have his younger sister marry a lumberman. Now, Allard forbid her to see this young man, but it was too late. He had given her a ring, and she took the ring so that she would not cause family strife, and she hung it down in her dress on a ribbon, and she would take it out when she was alone or in the privacy of her room and put the ring on and dream about the days when she would be a married woman. But one night, Allard came into Alice's room without knocking. He saw her with the ring. He had known about the ring early on, and he told her to give it back. She still had it. He was furious. He knew she must be still seeing this young man, so he did something that he had been planning and studying on for a while now. He told Alice to pack her trunk that he was taking her to boarding school in Charleston. The boarding school that he had picked out and arranged for Alice to attend was one that had a history of keeping young plantation belles away from unsuitable beaux, such as lumbermen, and it had a big wall around it with broken off bottles to keep young ladies from climbing over the wall and coming back the next morning a married woman, like one girl from that school had done before the wall was created. Alice was taken to the boarding school and enrolled there. Mail coming in and out was monitored by the boarding school mistress. Alice couldn't receive word from her beloved, who was now her fiance, of course, because she still had that ring down in her bodice. Well, the Christmas season came. Alice was required to have a St. Cecilia ball for the entertainments down in Charleston. She had one made in Charleston, a long white gown that she decided she would keep so that when she became a married woman and when she would reunite with her lumberman, that's what she'd wear. Christmas season came and went. The malaria season started. Alice, who is documented as having had malaria twice in the past year, because these were real people. Her brother was a medical doctor, and he kept a daybook. He had recorded in his book that he had treated his younger sister with opium twice in the past year of malaria. He wasn't there with his opium now, and she became worsened, and by the time he got a message from Charleston and the boarding school mistress and got down there from Merle's Inlet, his young sister was in a coma. She was unconscious when he loaded her up and brought her back here to their home in the Hermitage bed. Alice fell in and out of consciousness for days. Every time upon waking, she would do what she'd been doing every morning for the past months since she'd been engaged. She would look for the ribbon and the ring, which was down and now in her nightgown. It was gone. Her brother had discovered it when he had been doing a medical examination of her. Looking for her pulse, he had found the ribbon, and curious, he brought it out, found the ring, snatched it off, and had thrown it out into the creek behind their house, never to be seen again. Alice, having no knowledge of this, just knew that her ring was gone. Everyone that came to her bedside in the next few days who was coming to tell her goodbye, because word had gotten around that young Alice Flagg was not long for this world, to each and every person that came to her bed, when she became conscious, she would say, "My ring, have you seen my ring?" One young man was even documented as riding to Georgetown, buying a ring, and giving it to Alice, and she simply said, "This is not my ring." She died asking for her ring. Her mother was in the mountains of North Carolina at this time, having gone up there to get away from the malarial mosquitoes. She'd been on her way back down here to the low country when Alice died. Waiting for her mother to come, the family had put Alice in that long white St. Cecilia ball gown and laid her to rest temporarily up in Merle's Inlet behind their home, the Hermitage, and underneath fragrant gardenia blossoms interspersed around them. When Alice's mother arrived back here, Alice was laid to rest permanently here in All Saints Waccamaw Episcopal Churchyard, where she still lies wearing that long white ball gown that she had hoped to be married in. Alice's brother, even in her death, was still angry that she had defied his wishes and been engaged to someone not of his choice. Beneath them, he thought, he had only her first name, Alice, put on her stone. All the other members of the Flagg family, such as these who died in the hurricane of 1893, and Alice and his wife, they all have their birth and death dates and their full names on their stones. But Alice was meant to be forgotten by her brother, who ironically now is only remembered in reference to his younger sister. Many people come to visit Alice's stone. In this lush churchyard with grass growing around every stone, there's none growing around Alice's because so many people come here and pay homage to her, and according to local tradition, walk around her grave backwards. Some say 7, some say 13 times. It's believed that on the 7th or 13th time, if you're wearing a ring, you will feel a sharp tug on it because Alice is still asking, my ring, have you seen my ring? Have you seen Alice's ring?
Whoa. I am not walking backwards, you guys. I know you want me to, but I'm not going to. Maybe we could get Michelle to do it. Walk backwards for us. That is an amazing story. I had never heard that one before, and we'll take some pictures so you guys can see later. But it clearly only just states her first name, and people leave like tokens and little gifts all over the gravestone. There's a puzzle piece, seashells, a bracelet, hair bows, some rocks, some bottle caps, just different things. And Miss Elizabeth was telling us if you come out here closer to like Halloween and Christmas and stuff like that, you'll see actual gifts and things like that. Just out of respect, remember anytime you're visiting a graveyard, respect those that are here and buried here, and leave the things that are here for them. They're not for you. So I just wanted to remind you guys of that. Always be respectful in the graveyard of those who are resting here.
Thank you, Drew.
Elizabeth Robertson Hunsinger, author of Ghosts of Georgetown, More Ghosts of Georgetown, and Georgetown Mysteries and Legends, is a storyteller, historic reenactor, and living historian. Her recent portrayals include 18th century Harriet Pinckney, Ori and Tea with Harriet Ori of Hampton Plantation, and the 19th century Margaret Hamilton Seabrook Rutledge in presenting My Colonel and His Lady at McClellanville. She has been Lady Elizabeth, pirating with Charlestown Few, a pirate crew, at the Georgetown Wood and Boat Show. Elizabeth is employed with the Georgetown Times, South Carolina's oldest newspaper. It is an active martial arts, fiddling, kayaking, and sewing historic clothing. Many Friday evenings she can be found in Georgetown's historic district, lantern in hand, leading her walking ghost tour, Ghosts of Georgetown Lantern Tours. Information can be found at www.ghostsofgeorgetown.com. Copies of her books, The Ghosts of Georgetown, More Ghosts of Georgetown, and The Mysteries and Legends of Georgetown will be available for purchase on Amazon.